once again, we are on the road because that's just how it goes. Wow, my hair's all sticky. All right. Well, I am excited about this week's Technique Tuesday video, just like I have been about all of the other ones, right? Because I get to choose the topic. But if you guys have any suggestions on topics, please let me know. Especially if there is any kind of question that you are just dying to ask a business coach, now is your chance. So I hope you caught our last Technique Tuesday video, which was all about writing your own rules for success. Check that out if you haven't already, so that you can make sure you're writing your rules for success as opposed to failure, as I was for many years. I don't want you to be doing that. And today we're going to talk about how to speak your prospect's language. Do you ever get off of a phone call, off of a sales presentation, and they just didn't see the value of your product or service, and you know how much it could help them, but it's driving you nuts because maybe you weren't able to help them understand that value of your product or service? Well, that happens to all of us, and I think the reason why it might happen, if that ever does to you, is because sometimes we do not speak the language of our prospects. And I'm not talking the difference between like English and Spanish and that kind of language, right? I'm talking about how we all process information in a different way. And so there's usually 3 different types of ways that we process information. And this goes back to like learner types, if you want to look at it that way. So there's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And you can use this to your advantage when you are in a sales conversation. The idea is that we just have to identify what their primary learning technique and processing technique is, and then be able to adapt to that. So let's go here. So first off, we're going to start with Vicky, Visual Vicky. So we're going to start with her. And see, visuals, they need to see things, right? And that may seem like it's pretty obvious. They're a visual person, they need to see things. But it's more than just seeing them with their eyes. They talk about seeing things. So some of the words that they're going to use are, did you see that? Or how can I see that? Or let's see, does that look good to you? Or, something like that. They're going to be using visual words. A couple of other things about visuals is a lot of times they're more extroverted, they're more outgoing, and they definitely have a tendency of moving their hands a lot. And they have high energy. So when you are selling to a visual person, you want to use those same words. How does that look like to you? And paint me the picture of what that looks like. Or, can you see how that's going to help you, right? So we want to use those visual words. But then we also want to match their energy. If they're high energy, then we want to be high energy as well. And during our presentation, we want to make sure that we have visuals. Because if you sit there and talk to someone for a good 30 minutes about your product or service without any visuals, and they're a visual learner, then they are not going to get it. And they'll be like, okay, that's nice. And we don't want that kind of response, right? And so just kind of keep that in mind. Think about the visual learners in your life. Who are those people who really use those visual words, especially painting those pictures? Like, you want to make sure they love stories. So you want to make sure that when you're telling those stories that you're using colors and that you're really explaining the details around you. So that's going to be really, really important to talk to visuals. So, got it? All right. Now we are going to move on to auditory. Now, this is one I cannot relate with as much, but my husband, he is more auditory and he's more analytical. So we're going to call this guy Auditory Andy. And that's not my husband's name, by the way. But so Auditory Andy, he is he processes things through his ears, right? So the biggest thing you want to make sure you're doing is that you do not go to a crowded bar or a restaurant or something like that. Because they process things through their ears, they're more likely to get distracted by other sounds. And so if you want their full attention, it needs to be in a very quiet place where you can have that one-on-one conversation. Now, auditories are also, they tend to be more analytical and logical. So these people people want facts. They don't really want a lot of story. If you are going to tell a story, then you need to involve sound. So, and then all of a sudden, whack, we were right there in the middle of it, or whatever, right? So you want to make sure you're including those sound words for auditory, people who process auditorily. So that's just a couple of things to keep in mind on them, and know your facts. Like, have a bunch of fact sheets ready for them so that, they know that it's all about the ROI with these people. You want to make sure you can really stand behind your facts and not as much story. Okay, perfect. So we've done visual and auditorial, and now we are going to move to kinesthetic. Now, it's funny when you think about kinesthetic as like learners, right? They have to be tactile and touch things and be able to do it on their own. Well, think about kinesthetics as more like feeling, as in emotion. They're very emotional. So if you think back a few weeks ago, I did a video on selling to different personalities, and there was red, blue, green, and yellow. So go check that out. And this really ties into it, is that visuals are usually more red and blue, auditory is green, and our kinesthetic people are yellow. They care so much about other people, and they want to be able to feel what you're saying. So, where you might focus more on features with your auditory folks, you want to focus on benefits with your kinesthetic folks. And not even benefits that just help them, but benefits that really help their family and other people, and them to make an impact on the world, because that's what they really care about. So the words that they're going to use is, they're going to use words like, I really feel that, or, boy, that really hits me right here, or, whatever that is that it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very emotional, and it's very about the feelings. So with these people, you're going to focus on emotional selling, as opposed to auditories, which would be more logical selling. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I don't have everything that I wanted to cover with you guys today, but one other thing to think about is when you're looking at someone and they're trying to process information, your auditory folks will actually look around the room as they're thinking, whereas your visual folks will actually look up. That's where they're trying to get their answers, is they're looking up. And your kinesthetic folks, they look down. Now, sometimes we think that means like not confident, or that they doubt, or that they're shy. And they might be introverts too, it doesn't really matter, but that's not really what's going on. They have to feel that like ground underneath them. They have to feel grounded, because that's the kinesthetic part of them. So when they, sorry about the sun. So when they are trying to come up with a solution, or, whatever that looks like for them, when they're thinking, then they're really looking down, because that's all about being grounded for them. And so look for those words, look for the way that they respond when they're thinking, and think about what's important to them. And you can really start to understand the language that they speak. And the best way to have any conversation, whether this is with your family, your prospect, your clients, whatever it is, even your employees, is to mirror the other person. So if they have high energy with them. If they have lower energy, have lower energy with them. And then write down all the words, the different words that they say. So if they say feeling, or if they say see, or if they say that really clicks for me, because that's very auditory, that really clicks for me, then at that point, you can then say whatever words that they said to you. And what's awesome about that is that people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And this darn hair is driving me nuts. I don't even know how to get to it. Oh my heavens. I swear. Some days, bad hair days, right? That's my personality. There you go. But yeah, people buy who they know, like, and trust. And so they usually know, like, and trust themselves most, right? And so we buy from people who we really like and who are kind of like us. And so when we mirror back the same words and the same type of energy and that same type of feeling, then they're going to feel really comfortable around us. So that's awesome. And then the other reason why we like to feed back their own words is sometimes it's important for them to hear those words because it gives them a different point of view or a different perspective that might actually help them to take that next step with you. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys today. So visual, you really want to think about those words of I see this, or paint the picture. And then your auditory, you want to make sure you have all those facts, you're in a quiet place, and then you're focused on words like, how does that click for you? And then kinesthetic, you want to be able to focus on the feeling words, how does that feel for you? Or, does that feel right? That kind of thing. And then, there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up and I can't remember it. It was so good too. But anyway, so just think about, it can be overwhelming to think like, okay, what kind of person is this when I'm talking to them? But like I said, just write down their words and feed them back to them. And that is exactly what's going to help you to really help them see that value of working with you or buying your product. So I hope this has been